Chapter 18. Both Gary and Ash spent the night nursing sore heads. Neither got much in the way of sleep. Gary was on the phone to Ash around 6 the next morning for a lift to work. Ash was already up, drinking coffee to see if it gave him a bit of a spark that his lack of sleep had taken from him. While stirring the coffee and deciding whether to add some cold water, Ash tried to estimate how much sleep he'd actually had. Putting together the pieces, he figured that he had half an hour on the settee before dragging himself off to bed. Then he laid awake until around 3, before nodding off for an hour and a half. Then he had laid there since 4:30. He kept telling himself it was rest if he laid really still, but no matter how much he tried to persuade himself that he'd had enough rest, the tiredness hit pretty much as soon as he'd decided to get up. Gary would be ready in 20 minutes, he'd said. That gave Ash 10 minutes to get ready and head out of the door. The two of them would be the first to the police station. Ash was sure of that. But there was a peace in working there without the hustle and bustle of later in the day, and with the throbbing in his head still knocking away, he needed something far from hustle and bustle. Ash sat outside Gary's house. He wanted to get the guy's attention. Couldn't sound the horn, far too early. No phone signal. What part of a town in the modern day didn't have a phone signal? Ash turned the engine off and resolved to go back to old school, knock on his door. As he opened the door, he spotted a movement in the wing mirror. Closing the door and looking more closely, he saw Gary approach the car from the rear. "Morning," he said, getting into the passenger side. "Morning. Where have you been?" "I said I'd be ready in 20 minutes. When you were late, I thought I'd grab some fresh air," Gary replied. "And was it?" Ash asked. "Was what? Gary replied. "The air. Was it fresh?" "Yes, enough riddles. My head hurts enough as it is." "Me too," Ash responded as he pulled off. "So, what happened?" Ash asked as he drove slowly towards the station. "Oh, I got hit over the head and dragged into a cleaner's cupboard. The guy who did it, I suspect, is the same one who took Marcus Bright from his room. Not sure how he got his handcuffs off, but he took the guy away." "What do you mean you suspect it's the same guy?" "There was no CCTV in the corridor where I was whacked. But everything adds up. He had the registration plate checked last night. The car was reported stolen from outside a property in Solgrave the other morning. Was there when they went to bed, missing when they got up, and I've been sent a message to say that it was found left outside the same property again in the early hours of this morning." "So it was borrowed rather than stolen?" Ash asked, with a hint of mischief in his voice. "You could say that. We've got forensics going over to take a look at it. Hopefully we get something, because this case smells of nothing right now. And you know what happens to a case when you can't smell it, don't you, Ash?" "What?" "You lose the scent." The two of them got out of the car as Ash pulled up at the police station, walking single file, both men rubbing their heads and deep in their own thoughts. Gary wanted to get the man who had hit him over the head. He didn't like being hurt at the best of times. Being attacked was how he saw it. Ash wanted to know why this man was helping Marcus Bright get away. Who was he? A relative? A friend? He must be someone incredibly sure of Marcus Bright's innocence if he was willing to strike a detective to get Marcus out of there. But where were they headed? "Gary, why did this man want Marcus Bright?" "What do you mean?" "Well, if he wants Marcus free, then there has to be more of a plan than just spring him from hospital. Does he prove his innocence, or does he get him out of the country?" "I already thought of the second one," Gary responded. "We've got a search out for him at all the ports and airports. Plus, we got a police officer to visit his address and secure his passport. He won't be leaving the country, not by any conventional means at any rate." "So that leaves Marcus being proven innocent as the other possible explanation. That doesn't seem particularly likely now, does it, given all we know?" No, Gary replied. As the two men sat and looked at something and nothing at the same time, the door opened, and Augustine walked in. I thought I was the only one who couldn't sleep, Augustine spoke, as he closed the door behind him. Morning, Gus, Ash said. Morning, Boyle, Gary added. So, are you two here because you have something in particular to investigate, or is there some other reason you've beaten me into the office this morning? Ash and Gary took it in turns to fill Augustine in on the events that had happened the previous day. Augustine had the bare bones in texts from the two men, but there was nothing like hearing it face to face. Augustine made notes every now and again, piecing together the afternoon and evening that the pair of them had experienced. Augustine wished he was there every step of the way with every team member. Like a fly on the wall, but that wasn't the way the world worked. And the car was left back at the same address in Sulgrave, Augustine asked out loud to the room as he read back through the notes. Yes, they replied in unison. And the forensics are checking it out this morning. Yes, the dual reply came again. So we head to Sulgrave. That's my spin on things, Augustine spoke, still looking down at the pad in front of him, perched on the desk. Sounds like a plan to me, Gus, Ash replied.